Hello and welcome to Skyrim. Today's going to be a bit of a mod talk. I thought it was high time I explained what's going on with the mods. So, the mods that I have installed, the big one of course is Skyrim. I was originally going to use Ace because I really like the level of detail that Ace goes into with things like the sure-footed status and basically all the passive combat abilities that really benefit you to put yourself in the best possible position in combat that you could be in.
I envy you the chance to see this dragon up close.
Okay. Meaning planning and setting your situation up and setting yourself up for success is really important and can really make a difference. But I decided to go with Skyrim because, number one, I know it. I've played Skyrim a lot in the past. Also, it has, I'd say, about 25% more perks, and I like going through a lot of perks. I considered using the community uncapper to do what I usually do, which is start off gaining a lot of perk points on levels and then gradually decrease until I'm only getting one perk per level, but I decided against that. And I am only gaining one perk point per level. I also was interested in Ace because of the way smithing works, which is you choose one of, well, you don't put lots of perk points into smithing, you instead put a perk point in each sort of tree. So you put a perk point into steel smithing, and then that leads up to Dwarven and Nordic and all those very heavy pieces of armor. And instead of putting a perk point in each, you just put a perk point in steel, and then you'll automatically gain the rest as you get to the level requirements. That's another reason I was interested in it, but the other big reason I went for Skyrim is because I know how to use the reprocker. And as far as I'm aware, there is no version of the reprocker for, or no equivalent to the reprocker rather, for Ace. And I like having a lot of mods. I had a few mods I particularly wanted to have. There's a mod called the Kynesguard and Daedra Hunter armor mod, which is a fairly integral part to this character. As I explained at the beginning, unless I cut it out, there is this character, Remy, is an apprentice Daedra Hunter who has been sent on to Skyrim on a mission to basically complete his initiation into the order of the secret order of Daedra Hunters, which have yet to be named. And basically he has to go and find this, not the Kynesguard stuff, that's separate. I'm leaving that. I may come to that eventually, I don't know. It's very cool, but it's also very big and grand, and it's also heavy armor and heavy weapons, and it's all heavy stuff and big and knightly and such, so I may well leave that, but I have to find the Daedra Hunters hideout, basically, and obtain my stuff. That's Remy's goal. And I really couldn't have done this without it, because that's a very particular kind of playthrough I wanted to do, and I couldn't have done it without it. As part of that playthrough, I am eventually going to be putting some points into probably alteration. I feel like this kind of character really needs to have paralyze, honestly. It seems like the sort of thing a Daedra Hunter would have, sort of the debilitating cantrips, that sort of style of thing. I'm also considering, I'm hoping to eventually not use shield anymore. I want to be using a longsword, which I think this armsman sword counts as, and an open hand, which I can swap between having just plain open and having a spell in. And hopefully I'll be able to do that eventually when I'm a bit of a higher level. If I level my block up correctly and I level up my one-handed skill correctly, I should be just as effective blocking one-handed with a longsword. If I go into the longsword tree, I believe there are some abilities that basically make it as good as a shield. only while using a longsword, of course. So what else? I'm using Skyrim. I'm also using Deadly Dragons. I'm using Hypothermia Frostfall, which I'm sure a lot of you know. It basically adds winter survival gear, adds temperatures, and you basically have to wrap up warm. So far, not had too much trouble because I'm in Whiterun, but if I ever go up north, which I will have to eventually, because, spoilers, that's where the hideout is, I will definitely need a lot of warm gear, fur cloaks, and all that sort of stuff. Now, I'm not sure where I want to go in terms of guilds. I'm considering the Companions. I'm also considering the Thieves Guild. I'm not really considering the Brotherhood or Mages guilds too much. I was thinking about doing some kind of modded guild, but I've put that aside for the moment. I've installed Realistic Needs and Diseases, again, because I want to do a bit of a realism playthrough. Also on the topic of realism, a mod I wasn't aware existed until I went looking for it. Which is called Important Information Overhaul, which I have set up. I've now thankfully finished setting up everything. Basically what happens is I'm using iHUD or Immersive HUD to turn all the bars and things off, but what happens is I should be able to show you if I bring up a spell. Where's the spell? Let's use Call Wolf Familiar. As you'll see, I don't have any kind of mana bar, but you should notice it. There we go. Instead of losing mana on a mana bar, the world drains of colour the lower my mana is. The world goes red the lower my health gets, and the world blurs the lower my my whatchamacallit gets. As you will see if I draw an arrow for a bit. I've set everything to 50%, except for stamina, which is at 25%, I believe. So when I'm down to 50% magicka, that wolf's noisy. When I'm down to 25%, no, 50%, yeah, 50% health, everything will start going red. 50% magicka, the world will start to lose colour. And 25% stamina, this will happen, and everything will go blurry. And then it'll take a moment to get back up. I'm not 100% sure how annoying it's going to be, because I haven't gone through a big amount of testing with it. I think it should be fine, and it means I won't have to have any bars or any messages, and everything should be nice and immersive, which would be good. So yeah, that's quite a nice one. As I said, I wasn't aware of that before I found it the other day. I've got Hunterborn as well, one of my favourite mods. It goes for the a much more detailed system of hunting. You kill an animal, but then instead of just looting it, you get you skin it, you can harvest ingredients from it, you can harvest meat from it, and you can then dispose of the corpse. You can also pick up the carcass as a whole and take it somewhere. For example, if you're wanting to take it home, or somewhere safe, if you're, say, in the middle of somewhere that you need to get out of quickly, you could just grab it if you can hold it, but they are very heavy. You can also get different kinds of hunting knives, which, up to a certain point, they're just better, but I think once you get past Dwarven, if I remember right, it might be past Steel, they actually start to specialise. Some are better at skinning, some are better at harvesting ingredients, some are better at cutting meat. So yeah, I've also got the Lock Overhaul, which the biggest thing I use in that is bashing. It means I can bash locks open by hitting them with a sword. Convenient Horses, because it's just better than normal horses. Become a Bard, one of my favourite mods in the game. Basically means if I can find an instrument, which I may have a bit of trouble finding, they don't tend to be too ubiquitous, but I'll look. You're actually able to play songs. You can also play songs in bars, or in taverns, and you're able to get a free room, a little bit of food, and a very small amount of money for it. So if you really want to stay at an inn and you don't have any money, it's a very useful way to do things. It's also got a lot of really nice music on there from a lot of YouTubers, which I believe all gave permission for it, so that's there. Better vampires. On the off chance I ever become a vampire or want better vampires, I am always torn between better vampires and Belua Sanguinare. Reason is, if you're not familiar, they're sort of the two biggest vampire overhaul mods. They do a lot of very similar things, but there are two big differences for me. On one hand, Belua Sanguinare has, in my opinion, a much better concealing mechanic to make you look human. If I remember rightly, it's been a while since I've used it. There is no time limit, so you can basically appear human as long as you want, so long as you don't do anything vampiric. So that's particularly good, for example, if I want to play a vampire but be on the Dawnguard side. If I'm doing Dawnguard, that will allow me to basically play it as a human and then turn into a vampire when I need it. Obviously I'm a vampire all the time, but appear human to the members of the Dawnguard, which is spoilers for anyone who's not played through Dawnguard yet, but the point when you become a vampire, or you have the option to become a vampire on the Dawnguard side, I quite like to take that, because it's a time when I'm able to become a vampire lord, and they are really cool. And Belua Sanguinare means I can be a vampire lord on the Dawnguard side, and not have a time limit on when the Dawnguard are going to kill me. On the Better Vampires side, I still have that, but there's a restriction on it. There's a time restriction, and I think there's also a magicka restriction. So I'm a lot more restricted. I think I get about 15 minutes, which should be enough for short-term conversations, but if I want to do anything long-term, if I want to go on a big assault with members of the Dawnguard or something, that's not going to be good. But on Better Vampires' good side, you can bottle blood, which is unbelievably important in my opinion. As far as I'm aware, you can't bottle blood in Belua Sanguinare, and you cannot use any mods that bottle blood with it. So, and also I really love the advancement system in Belua Sanguinare. It is a fantastic advancement system, but bottling blood is incredibly important to me because I want to be able to keep a stash on me to keep me satiated. So, there's that, because I always have it set that when you're hungriest is when you're going to be most hated. I believe I have it set up right now so that when you're hungriest, you will have the weakest powers and be the most hated, which is, I think, the toughest one. Champion of Kine, along with the other one that is part 1, Path of the Druid, yes. That's a really cool mod. It's sort of a quest mod. I don't know when it's going to kick in. At some point I should have the quest begin. I'm not in control of beginning it, but at some point it should begin with a letter or something. And it basically gives me the option to go fight some bosses and gain some really cool powers. Sky UI, of course. Everyone needs Sky UI nowadays. What else? Manual crossbow reload. Not using that at the moment. If you've seen the last few videos, assuming I put these all in order, my crossbows aren't working at the moment. When I try to take a crossbow out, I will instead draw my bow and hold it as if it's a crossbow. And I can click things about a bit and make it so the crossbow loads up fine, and I can use the crossbow, but then when I want to use the bow, same thing happens, and instead of drawing my bow, I draw a crossbow and hold it like a bow. And I prefer bows. Generally, because I think if I'm in close combat, I want to be using my sword. If I'm in range combat, I use a longbow. I've not been using short bows, and I really don't plan to. Let's see. Take notes. I like take notes. There's nothing particularly big or fancy about it. It's a book, basically. I'm not going to be using it as a journal. I'm going to be using it for taking actual notes. If there's something I want to write down and remember, I'm going to write it down in my notebook. I just find it a little more immersive than having a little notepad beside my computer. Dance of Death. Old mod, but a very good one. Basically means I have a lot more control over kill cams and there's a lot more cool ones. I just think it makes things a bit more dramatic, really. Then we have the Thieves Guild requirements, which, as I said, I'm considering the Thieves Guild. I'm a bit on the fence about it at the moment. It really depends whether I go stealing things. And on that, I set it up so that I'm actually going to have to steal at least 25 items to begin the recruitment quest. I'm also going to have to pick 5 pockets. Sneak skill of 25, I've probably got that already, but I'm going to have to pick a few pockets and steal stuff before someone will come up to me and ask me to join the Thieves Guild, which is good. It means no one's going to tempt me into being a thief if I've not already done thievy things. Next, Tame Beasts. I saw this a couple days ago. It will have not been on in the last couple episodes because this is the first time I've put it in. I'm not 100% sure what I do in the end, but it seems to be fairly well implemented. And the idea seems to be that you can get beast companions. You basically find special versions of animals, make them your companions, they'll level up with you, and they'll be cool and such. Which is something I'm interested in taking a look at. I mean, with a sort of ranger, Daedra hunter, something like a fox or a wolf companion would be cool. Also, I intend on having a good few companions. I intend on having less me and a partner, but more a sort of party. And an animal's always welcome in a party. On that note, I have put in a few companions. I have put in I've put in Cerwydden. I never remember is this particular companion called Cerwydden or Cerwydden. But one of them, who I actually have no idea where to find her. I don't remember if I read it or not. So that'll be cool. I don't know when I'm going to run into her. A bit of an old one, so I'm not sure if that's going to work 100%. I'm not sure how compatible it's going to be with the newest version of UFO, but hopefully it'll be fine. Worst comes to worst, I'll just ignore her. I've also got the newest companion, who is a thiefy, roguey type, I believe. And I've got a bloke who is in Windhelm somewhere in a pub, I think. Who is some kind of swordsman or a mercenary or something. And I've also got a Khajiit, who looks to be one of the best companion mods out there from what I've seen. Yeah. I've also got Equipping Overhaul, one of my favourites. There are 2 big features in here that I like. Number 1, actually 3. All 3 features actually. Realistic unequip. If I don't have time to actually resheath my weapon and I just switch to another weapon while I have it out, I will drop the weapon I had equipped and just pull out my new one. Very much like what would happen in real life. And it just adds another dynamic. It adds a bit of planning, and it also adds a bit of drama, in my opinion, where I've got, okay, someone's running at me. Do I have time to sheath my bow and bring out my sword, or do I just pull out my sword? If I don't have time, I should pull out my sword. But if I do have time, I don't want to drop my bow. I might need it later, and I might lose it. So just a bit more drama there. Geared up, I really like. Basically, yeah, it shows all weapons, and yeah, I think it's just all weapons on my favorites menu, which is good. Doesn't show shields on your back. I'm a bit disappointed about that, but all weapons on my favorites menu are shown for the most part. I found that if I have 2 swords that are similar equipped, they don't seem to both show up. It only seems to be one or the other. But you can still see my bow, my axe, my sword, and a few other bits and bobs, which is nice. It just adds to the feel of someone who's actually carrying everything they're carrying. And lit torch. Very useful, because if I'm carrying a torch in a dungeon and I swap to my shield, it means, most importantly, I don't lose the light. The torch will keep burning on the floor. So I can quickly switch to a shield. I'll automatically drop my torch, and I'll have a bit of light to fight by, which is nice. Okay, what else do I have installed? That's everything that has a mod menu. I have a couple other things. I have a Riften overhaul, which basically makes Riften a lot more parkourish. There's plenty of ladders taking me up to rooftops. I can go up to rooftops, sneak into people's houses from the roofs. It's basically a lot nicer in terms of being a thief in Riften. There are, in fact, as far as I'm aware, I think the mod I got overhauls all the cities, but I'm not 100% sure. I'll have to take a look. I've only really checked Riften for it. But I've been told that there are places like sewers. In fact, we can go check that now, while I think about the other mods I have installed. Chickens. Yes, I have leveled, but I'm not going to level up until the next episode begins. Oh, it's dark.
I spend a lot of time at the market stall so I can learn the merchant's trade.
I don't see any sewers immediately. Oh yes, of course. I have also installed the realistic lighting overhaul. Realistic lighting overhaul. I've got a few weapon mods. Some miscellaneous weapon mods. I also have immersive weapons, immersive armors, all those good mods. I have, for my starting equipment, the Regal Huntsman armor because it looks amazing, and Glimmer, which is a weapon mod and gives me that sword, which I am not using anymore. Not until I'm a slightly higher level. There are in-character reasons for this, which you will know if you decide to watch the main series. What else? Oh yes, the reason I gave myself that equipment. I like my characters to have backstory, and I always run alternate start, live another life. Just because even if I'm starting the Helgen normal beginning as I did with this playthrough, it gives me the opportunity to set up any equipment and also set up all the mod menus and all that sort of stuff before I get into the game, so everything's nicely sorted before anything begins. Because I don't like having to muck around with things in Helgen. It sort of detracts from the whole atmosphere of running away from a dragon. Then, who said that? Okay. So yeah, they are, I believe all this is mid-level gear. It's not super powerful right now because I'm using Skyrim, so it is all fairly relative to me. But yeah, I am not going to be using it for in-character reasons. I used it for the first dungeon. I'm not going to be using it for in-character reasons. I'm going to be using this other gear that I've now crafted myself. And I'll be keeping that in my house when I get one, or in some kind of home, until I basically have the dramatic moment of get out the old gear and do this thing. You all know the sort of moment. I think it's just cool to have that dramatic thing later, that I know at some point I can have the dramatic thing of, okay, now it's serious, I'm going to take out all my old gear, my old Daedra Hunter gear and such. One thing, I don't know if you can hear it, I certainly can, which is that Heemskir, the annoying over there, is talking from the wrong side. I hear him on my left. There's an issue I have which occasionally causes me to stop recording and start again because I have to alter my sound card settings. That unfortunately is not something that I know how to fix, which is annoying, but you know, have to deal with it. I have
I've seen you helping the Yawn. If only all visitors to Whiterun were as noble.
Cheers. I've got a few mods, like I believe I have Amber Guard installed, a few sort of place mods that just give me some nice cool areas to check out. I have Artifact disenchanting, one of my favorites. Means I can unenchant special items like Daedric weapons, which, as a Daedra hunter, I'm not going to be using the Daedra's items. That would be terrible. However, there's nothing wrong with me destroying them and then using their power to make my own items. So I've got that. I'm considering putting in a mod that will basically make it so that enchanted items have infinite charge, because I really like the Morrowind system. If there's some mod that allows me to have the Morrowind system of items where I just don't use it for a bit and the item will recharge on its own, I want that. But as far as I'm aware, that doesn't exist. So I will simply be using the I will probably be putting in some kind of enchanted item infinite charge thing. I'm not going to put it in yet, but I will eventually. Don't worry about the leveling up from all the running around. I am going to start before this. I'm going to load the save at the beginning. I'm not going to save after this chat. So yeah, I believe that's everything. I did muck about with a few mods, like I used the unofficial patch and the cutting room floor mod. They don't seem to work for me for some reason. They were very screwy. So yeah, I'm not going to be using them. Oh yeah, there's something else I forgot. I do not use crosshairs at all. This may frustrate some of you slightly because it means I am a horrifically bad archer. Even though I'm supposed to be a very good archer, I'm very bad at aiming simply because I don't have a crosshair. I have to judge it based on where the arrow is. And that, of course, will change depending on whether I'm standing or crouching, and depending on what bow I'm using and what arrow. Excuse me. So yes, I also have. Did I? No, I haven't installed dual combat realism. I'm considering it. I'm gonna see how hard everything is at the moment. I'm currently on adept difficulty. I'm not sure whether I want to go for something bigger. I quite like locational damage. If I can get something with more locational damage, I'll use it.
Give up while you still can.
You should be able to see everything go red a bit in a moment. Oh. Or maybe I'll just be shot dead immediately, yes. If I am shot dead in one hit, then everything goes black rather than red, because, yeah, that's how it works.
I've seen you helping the Jarl.
Good. You see, everything going red before I die. But that's how that mod works. It should be a lot more immersive and a lot nicer. As I say, I'm going to be gathering a party at some point because that's cool. I'm going to be gathering some kind of pet, and I'm hoping to find somewhere to live. I am considering the Gypsy Caravan. Gypsy Eyes Caravan, I think it's called. Which is a very nice movable home thing, which is probably one of my favourite home mods. Oh yes, I do have Build Your Own Home installed as well. Any mods that I have forgotten will be in the description below. I don't know whether or not I'm going to have all the mods I'm using in the description of every episode yet. I'm a bit on the fence. I'm not sure it's necessary and it takes up a lot of room. I'm considering just having a big list of mods and then have mod changes. But yeah. I hope you enjoyed this mod talk and I will see you next time. Bye bye.